Still on that story, the number of bodies retrieved at the Kware Dumpsite at the Mukuru Njenga slums has hit 12.
It began with a sister's search. Josephine Owino vanished on June 26, 2024, when a sister paid locals to search a quarry near Kware in Mukuru Njenga. They stumbled on something far worse than a missing person. Police would later confirm that the killings may have begun as far back as 2022. But how did they know that? Just days after the grim discovery at Mukuru Kware, police made an arrest that sent shockwaves as one across the country. Their prime suspect, 33-year-old Collins Khalusha, he was found in calmly watching the Euro Championship final at a local bar, unaware that detectives were closing in. A few hours later, officers raided his residence barely 100 meters from the dump site where the bodies were found. What they uncovered was chilling: 10 mobile phones, several items of women's clothing, a blood-stained machete, sacks identical to those used to dump the bodies, a laptop, and multiple identity cards belonging to both men and women. Each item painted a more sinister picture of a man now believed to be Kenya's most dangerous serial killer in years. 2 victims were directly linked to the evidence recovered from Khalusha's phone. One, Roslyn Akotho Gongo. Her family identified a handbag recovered at the house. It was the same one she was last seen carrying. 2, Imelda Judith Karinya, believed to be Khalusha's first wife. Her national ID was found among the items retrieved. For detectives, these discoveries were just clues. They were the beginning of a case that would soon unravel Kenyans' faith in its justice system. For investigators, the arrest of Collins Khalusha seemed like a breakthrough. But as the case unfolded, troubling questions began to surface. Khalusha had allegedly confessed to the killings, but in court, he stunned the courtroom by withdrawing the statement, claiming it had been extracted under torture. He was being held at Gigiri Police Station, one of the country's most secure holding facilities, located in Nairobi's diplomatic district. Then something almost unbelievable happened. Tuesday morning, police discovered that Khalusha has vanished from his cell overnight along the 12 Eritrean detainees. 12 men gone, but 4 others arrested the same night, but being drunk and disorderly remained in the same communal cell. How could a suspected serial killer simply vanish in the night? As a result, police fallout. 8 officers were suspended. 5 were charged with aiding the escape in exchange for bribes. The escape didn't just raise alarms, it ignited fury. With the main suspect gone, the public began to question whether the arrest had been real justice or a smokescreen to cover something deeper. With Khalusha missing and the court proceedings stalled, what should have been a turning point in the case became yet another symbol of Kenya's broken justice system. As news of Khalusha's escape spread across Kenya, so did outrage. How could a suspected serial killer vanish from a maximum security cell? Why did it take 9 bodies for the authorities to act? And how had police missed a serial killer operating just steps away from a local stations? Kenyans demanded answers and accountability, but the damage had been done, the public wasn't just angry, they were afraid. For many, the Kware killings were not an isolated case, they were part of a much larger, more disturbing pattern. In January 2024, 26-year-old Instagram influencer Starlet Wahoo was fatally stabbed in a short-let apartment. Just days later, 20-year-old student Rita Waeni was found dismembered, murdered by a man she had also checked in with. 2 women, 2 weeks, 2 brutal killings, but the real number is far worse. According to Africa Uncensored and Africa Data Hub, over 500 women were murdered in Kenya between 2017 and early 2024. For Kenyan women, this wasn't just a crime story, it was a national emergency. The Kware case brought everything to a boiling point. Kenyans were no longer just demanding answers, they were demanding change. As mutilated bodies were being pulled from a dump site in Mukuru, the nation was already burning. Just weeks earlier, Kenya had erupted in violent anti-government protests. Citizens took to the streets to reject a controversial financial bill that would raise taxes in basic commodities. On June 24, protesters stormed the parliament. Police opened fire. At least 40 people were confirmed dead. Dozens more disappeared. Eyewitnesses alleged that demonstrators were arrested, beaten, or never seen again. Soon, disturbing questions emerged. Were the bodies in Kware really murder victims or protesters who had been executed and dumped? Whispers of a state cover-up spread fast. Some claimed the bodies were clean-ups, evidence of police extrajudicial killings disguised as serial murders. Unverified reports claimed mass graves in areas like Githurai. The Mukuru quarry became more than a dump site. It became a symbol of a country's burial truth. The Independent Police Oversight Authority (IPOA) announced an investigation into alleged police involvement in abductions, disappearance, and possibly the Kware murders. They confirmed what many feared. The bodies bore signs of torture, mutilation, organized concealment. As trust in government institutions collapsed, Kenya entered a state of uncertainty. All officers stationed in Kware police stations were transferred pending investigations. Protesters returned to the streets, this time demanding the resignation of President William Samoei Ruto. On July 2nd, police again opened fire. Among those wounded, journalist Wanjeri Kariuki shot in Nakuru while covering a peaceful demonstrations. The lines between protests and punishment, between crime and conspiracy began to blur, and the Kware killings, once viewed as the acts of a lone killer, now echoed with the screams of a nation in crisis. As protests roared across Kenya and the main suspect vanished without a trace, investigators dug deeper and uncovered a shocking new trail of evidence. Even without Khalusha in custody, the evidence he left behind began to unravel a web of connections. The first breakthrough came from a victim's phone belonging to Roslyn Akotogongo. It had been sold on the streets. The buyer was traced and arrested. The man led detectives to a second suspect, a non-electrics dealer. In his house, police found 154 used mobile phones, some linked to other victims. He confessed that many of the devices had come from Collins Khalusha. Was Khalusha working alone, or was this the beginning of something larger? The presence of so many phones and identity cards suggested something more than random killings. Were these crimes of passion? Robberies gone wrong? or part of a coordinating trafficking or organ trade ring. Police now believed that the victims were not only murdered but targeted. The court ruled that Khalusha will be held for 30 more days pending investigation if he could be found. For the first time, the case seemed to turn not toward closure but toward complexity. The arrest of new suspects reopened questions about motive, about method, and about just how many knew the truth behind the Kware killings. With suspects in custody, a fugitive killer still on the run, and more than 9 victims still unidentified, Kenya found itself suspended between grief and silence. Cut to solemn visuals, police tape fluttering, family members staring at morgue walls, unmarked graves in Langata. Most of the bodies discovered from Mukuru Kware still lie in the mortuary, unclaimed and unnamed. For many families of the missing, closure has become an empty word. They don't even know if their loved ones are among the dead. A widow sister still searches. Other women's names surface online, but police issue no confirmation. Autopsies suggest the bodies were subjected to torture before the death. These weren't just killings, these were statements. But from whom? Was Collins Khalusha the mastermind of a killing spree, or just a convenient villain in a much darker story? His escape remains a national embarrassment. No CCTV footage, no detailed timeline, no official accountability. 5 officers alleged bribed, 8 suspended, but still no answers. And as more names appear on the police radar, the theory of a lone serial killer grow weaker. Kenyans aren't just angry, they are tired of being afraid, unheard, and unprotected. For many, the Kware killings are a reflection of something deeper, a society where vulnerable are expendable and where power can silence pain. We are not just burying bodies, we are burying faith in the system. If we forget these victims, we invite more silence. If we remember them, we might just force truth into the light. This is not just a story about murder, it's a story about who we choose to fight for and who we choose to ignore.